and not overly reactive, are overwhelmed by what is going on around us. Mindfulness is a quality that every human being already possesses. It is not something you have a consumer of. You just have to learn how to access it. Today, we are pleased to welcome our respected resource person, Sandy Ma'am. She is a founder, director, Just Being Center, Pune. She is a international certification is affiliation mindfulness based on cognitive therapy for the Center of Mindfulness, the University of California, San Diego, USA. Madam has 19 years experience in the field, like she has a listen on the international dictionary, listed on the international dictionary of MBCT therapy. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation and talking about your previous time to attend this program. Now, I will request madam to start her session. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you once again, ma'am, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you all so much for hosting this and for being here to explore mindfulness. And of course, like what has been said, is that mindfulness is this capacity to be present. So, right now, as we begin, maybe we can just take some time to just come into being present with ourselves, with our thoughts, with our feelings, with what we are noticing as to what's going on in the body. So, I just like to invite all of you to just feel your feet on the ground, sense that contact with the earth. Right? We'll do a little guided practice. Feel the contact that your body is making to the seat. See if you can feel that contact.
Sir, Pushpendra.
And and just be aware of yourself sitting. You're just sitting here, you're just breathing. And you're just sensing your breath, just your normal flow of breath. Just as you're breathing in, breathing out. And now bring your attention to whatever is in the environment right now, maybe sounds. And just notice sounds as sounds. You're not trying to search for the sound. You're just noticing sound as sound. And now just look around you in the room and just bring your attention to maybe the colors that you see around in the room, wherever you are. Just seeing something that you notice. And see if there's something familiar in the room that you feel connected to. And this is going to be an interactive meeting. It's going to be an interactive session. So I'd also like to invite you all to put on your videos and whatever, so we can see each other, we can interact with each other. It's always nice to see each other, right? That's where we make the connection. That's where we remain present to each other. We remain attentive to each other. And that's part of mindfulness, to remain connected. So I just want to begin first from the short practice that we just did right now. I just want to ask, what did you all notice? What did you all notice during the practice? What was going on in your mind? How are you feeling right now? We can just take a few sharings. Okay. So you can just unmute and just share. What did you notice in the practice? Anyone? Do you feel more present right now? Do you feel more here right now? Or maybe you don't. Maybe as we were doing the practice, what you observed was many thoughts going on in your mind. Maybe you found that you're very distracted and thinking about other things. Now, just to be aware that right now my mind is distracted, right now I'm feeling sleepy, right now there is this going on within me. Just this awareness is what mindfulness practice is about. Okay, so mindfulness is not about coming to a state of calm or anything. It is bringing this awareness to however we are, noticing it. Okay, noticing what's happening in our mind, noticing what's happening at our feeling level, noticing what's happening in the body. Now you'd say, why is all of this noticing important? Why should we bring our attention like this? What is the point of being aware? And does awareness itself lead to any change? Now, all of the research in mindfulness really points out to that yes, awareness itself brings about some change. Why? Because once we are aware what is happening right now with us, we are able to make more choices in this moment as to how do we meet this feeling, how do we meet this thought, how do we meet ourselves, right? What to do in this situation. But it is not from just thinking about it. There is more quiet and we kind of step back. So, how many of you all have heard of Viktor Frankl? He was a psychologist. Okay? And Viktor Frankl was during this time of, during the time of the concentration camps, and he wrote many interesting books based on his life there. And so, what in a much famous line which we often use is that Viktor Frankl spoke about that there is a stimulus, right? And there is a response all the time, right? I am talking, you are listening. Stimulus, response, right? Maybe the dog starts barking. I have a dog. Maybe the dog will just start barking. That's a stimulus. And because the dog starts barking during the presentation, maybe I get irritated and upset. That's the response, right? So all the time there is stimulus and response. Yeah? Somebody says something to you, stimulus. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't like it. That's the response, right? There's a feeling that comes up. You you didn't do something on time, stimulus, what you're telling yourself, what you're saying about it to yourself, your self-talk, response. Okay? So this gives you an idea what is stimulus, what is response. So all the time there is this whole cycle, stimulus, response, stimulus, response. Now what Viktor Frankl said is that between stimulus and between response, there is a space. Okay? And in that space lies freedom, our freedom to choose, our freedom for choice. And in that space is also some inner silence and quiet. That Viktor Frankl did not say, but he said between stimulus and response there is a space, and in that space is our freedom to choose. Okay? So all the time, usually we are reacting. Something happens, we react, right? Someone's not nice to us, we feel upset and we may say something. Sometimes this reaction is only internal, sometimes it is also external, right? We take some action. And usually there's no gap and there's no awareness also that it is a reaction. So when we are practicing mindfulness, we start to become aware. Oh, I am being reactive here, right? And then we learn to pause. And we'll talk about how do you pause, right? We learn to pause, okay? And when we learn to pause, we start to create some distance between stimulus, response. Okay? And there is our freedom to choose. So I'm just wondering, would you all like to do an exercise where you all want to try this out for yourselves? Or should I just talk? Okay. What would you like? Would you like to do an exercise where you try this out for yourself and find out how to practice? Would you like to do that? Maybe one representative can answer or put it in the chat. Yes. Someone is saying exercise. Yeah. So I'm going to take that as majority. Okay. All right. So this is what I'd like you to do. Is that it's just a short visualization for which you need to close your eyes. It's just a 2-minute visualization. So I'll invite you to just take some time, close your eyes. Okay. And as you close your eyes, you just imagine, just in your mind's eye, just visualize or imagine you're walking down a street. You're walking down a street, and just on the other side is someone you know. So you wave and they walk by. I'll repeat it again. Okay? You're walking down a street, just on the opposite side you see someone you know. So you wave and they walk by. So just notice the thoughts, feelings, and sensations that came up for you right now. And if you have pen and paper, just take some time to just note it down. What were your thoughts? What were the feelings that came up right now? Okay, that are coming up right now when you did this visualization. And if you noticed any feeling in the body, any sensation in the body, like maybe my chest gets contracted, or maybe I feel mm, I feel hot, or maybe I feel like punching. Okay, so those are sensations in the body, right? That you notice in the body. So you just write it down or just notice it. And I just like here, I'd like either you can put it in chat. What did you notice as in terms of your thoughts, feelings, sensations? Can we have 2 or 3 people just sharing? And you can also use the chat to just write it down. Okay. Anyone has a response? What? Yes. Yes, Prakash.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Actually, I was visualizing my friend, one of my very closest friends, and
Yeah.
I just felt that when am I going to meet her again? Also, there was this feeling to hug her, or to be happy and joyful with her. Um, so yeah, that was the feeling that I was experiencing.
That was the feeling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So there was a thought, oh my, of seeing your friend, something around that, and feeling joyful. But you notice the feeling first, right? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone, anyone else? Because in the visualization, we wave out and the person just walks by, right? So anyone else as to what is the thought? Yeah. So someone sharing that in the chat, just let me have a look at it. Yeah, felt happy to see the person, right? Because I also saw my best friend. Okay. So anyone else? Any other responses? We'll take one more. Okay. How many of you thought that, or even if not the visualization, if this were to really happen, that you see someone, you wave and they just walk by? Maybe sometimes some of us will feel embarrassed, maybe some of us will feel angry, maybe some of us will feel happy, maybe some of us will feel irritated, right? Or sad or upset. And the thoughts may be or very different. The thoughts may be in terms of how come this person did not see me? Why did this person not see me? Oh my God, I may look so foolish just waving out and the person walked by. So, just in that moment, we start to notice that there are many thoughts, many feelings, many sensations coming up. But if you really look at the situation, right, and each of us will have different thoughts, feelings, sensations. If you really look at the situation as to what happened, what did I say in the visualization? That I'm walking down the street, I wave, and the person walks by. So, if we really look at it, that is all that happened, right? Then what we said about it, what we thought about it, what we felt about it happened in our head. Okay, you get this? So this is like really huge because all the time we are not being factual about what is happening, right? Remember the stimulus response. So there's a stimulus, and immediately, okay, in nanoseconds, there is there is a link to some thought that you might have about it based on your past experiences, based on how you felt maybe with this person before. Let's say this was not a friend you met, like some of you shared, this was a friend, and so I felt happy. Let's say that person whom you saw was maybe somebody you had a disagreement with, right? Then the feelings that would come up would be very different because your past experiences, which we call conditioning, is different. Okay, so our past experiences, our memories, our past associations, all of that comes in into the moment and it colors our perception, it colors our reaction. And all of this is happening very, very quickly, right? It's very fast. We're just talking about split second, all of this is happening. So, when we are saying we are going to practice mindfulness, what is mindfulness doing? Why is it found to be effective? Research after research is showing that yes, mindfulness practice is very, very beneficial, right? So, what's it doing? When we are practicing mindfulness, we start to become aware of what is going on within us, moment to moment. Okay, this thought that is coming up, this feeling that is coming up, okay? This sensation that is coming up. And we just stay there without judging what we are experiencing, without saying anything about it. We are just observing it just as is. Okay? And as we observe it just as is, our judgment about it, our judgment about what is happening reduces. Our criticism, our self criticism about what we are experiencing, that reduces. And we are able to engage then more from looking at things just as they are, non reactivity. Okay, mindfulness comes from Buddhist practices, right? And it's now incorporated a lot in psychology. So in Buddhism, you would call it equanimity, the state of the mind that has no preference, right? That is neither choosing this over that, is just looking at experience as experience, right? Like for now. And every moment we can practice. How can we practice? Yeah, so I just like to share a few practices right now. We did a practice as we began the session. One of the practices that you can do is just simple grounding. Okay, just bring attention, just bring attention to your feet on the ground, to your seat. Okay, bringing attention in the body, bringing attention to the breath, bringing attention to the senses, any of the senses. Okay, sight, touch, taste, smell, brings us in the present moment. These are what are called anchors. So we can choose any anchor of breath, body, or any of the senses to bring our attention here now. Okay? Otherwise, what's happening is our attention is moving with the mind, wherever the mind is going and getting lost in either thoughts. And what are these thoughts? Thoughts about the future, a lot of worrying, a lot of anxiety, or thoughts about the past, what we call rumination, right? Something happened in the past and we just go on thinking about it. So, at the level of the thinking mind, we are really present here now. So, to move out of this constant thinking, okay, either about the future or about the past, and to just stay present. We use the body, we use the breath, we use the senses. So, all the meditation practices, and it is a practice. Mindfulness cannot come by just listening to something, it's a practice that you need to cultivate every day. And research has found that 8 weeks of practice okay, can bring about actual structural changes in the brain. There are shifts in the way, neurons fire together, how they wire together. New pathways start to form in the brain with just 8 weeks of practice, and then, of course, you have to sustain it. And the deeper we go with the practice, that is, if we continue to practice, then of course the benefits are much more and much deeper. Okay, so let's look at some of the practices we can do. And again, you have to see what works for you. Okay, mindfulness is not like one size fits all. You have to see, okay, what is it that I can start with as a practice that I can do on a daily basis. And one of the practices that we can do is that of, like I said, grounding. So feeling your feet on the ground. Yeah. Just right now, just sense your feet on the ground. Sense the contact of the soles of your feet to the ground. And you can feel maybe the coolness or the warmth, right? That's where you bring your attention to the sensory experience. Okay. Or right now, you can just bring your attention to sounds like we did in the beginning. Just noticing sound as sound. You're just sitting in the morning, you're just sitting with your cup of tea or and just taking some time just before you start the day, just 5 minutes of silence and just sitting, maybe just listening to sounds. When you're eating, there's so much richness in the taste and colors and texture of food. And that can be a mindful practice, right? You're having a shower and feeling the flow of the water on your body. That can be a mindful practice where you're bringing your attention to the senses. You're brushing your hair, just bringing the sense of gentleness uh, with that touch as the comb or the brush, touches your hair. That's bringing that mindful attention. So with everything that we are doing throughout the day, there is an opportunity to practice. It doesn't have to be a difficult practice. Okay? And then there are the formal practices, the meditations, right? Where you can sit. Now, why is a sitting practice or a walking practice or a movement practice important? Because it's like you're going to the gym, right? And you're every day you're going to the gym and you're working out certain muscles in the body, right? And that's what the practice is doing. Every time you're sitting with yourself, you're building on these neural circuits, right? You're building those muscles. You're building these connections, right? So you're strengthening your capacity. And it is an opportunity to watch your mind, to watch yourself, to watch the reactions coming up in you, even when you're sitting. Yeah. So it's like your inner laboratory. So you can start with a sitting practice of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, see what's suitable for you. And you can begin with, like I said, the different anchors and maybe the anchor of the breath. Yeah. Just notice the breath. I like to notice the breath more in the abdomen. And so just noticing the breath at the abdomen. So when we notice the breath at the abdomen, it can be quite grounding. So the breath can be the practice, or you can just notice the whole body, right? Bringing attention from one part of the body to the next. And so there are many guided practices like that. It can be helpful to listen to guided practices, okay, as you start your practice and see what is suitable for you, right? And then you stick to that practice. Sometimes when the mind is too agitated, we can't sit and we can't watch the breath. We would, as a psychologist, that would not be something we would even do with somebody who is feeling anxious. Because when you are feeling anxious, you notice that the breath is, not very regulated. So, in that sense, it is better to then practice if the mind is very agitated with maybe movement, right? So, you bring movement like a yoga practice goes with mindfulness because you're bringing the awareness to every movement, every shift. Okay. So, you can use either the practices with movement or sitting, and then we said in your everyday life. Just remembering. So, mindfulness is not a hard practice to do. It's, but it does take a while to keep remembering. And that is the original meaning when we look at the word mindfulness, which comes from Pali. It does have the sense or this meaning of remembering, to remember, to keep remembering. And what do you keep remembering? The anchor. Whether breath is your anchor, whether walking is your anchor, you keep remembering the anchor. Okay. So now I want to just share with you, me saying there are all these benefits. So what are all these benefits? Though I would really recommend that the practice of mindfulness is much more than all these benefits that are being seen by research, because it really brings you in touch with who you are at the deepest level. It brings you in touch with your own inner knowing and wisdom. It brings you in touch with a space of inner quiet from where we can see things more clearly. So it's a very transformative practice. But the research that has been found, and I'll just use what the neuroscientist Dan Siegel uses, okay? So you can also do this with me. It's called the hand brain model. Let's say if this is the brain, okay? Very simple way to explain it. So put your thumb in and you can just close your fist, and this is the brain, okay? So here at the wrist, it is the brain stem. So it is the base of the head. And at the brain stem, we just need to understand basics of this so that we understand how does mindfulness benefit us? What is happening? Okay, what is happening that neuroscience is finding, which is why mindfulness is becoming very popular, right? So this is the brainstem. Now, what is the brainstem responsible for? All activities that we are not really don't require conscious awareness. Breathing, digestion, things like that. And it is also responsible for our survival. So, like if there is a threat, then it activates the survival system, which is fight, flight, or freeze, right? So let's say if there's an actual tiger, right? Maybe our instinct is either to fight with the tiger or flee, or we just feel frozen. Okay. So now there are no tigers, but let's say if we perceive threat, like I said, even a simple thing like somebody was very offensive to us and this hurt us in some way, right? And we perceive that as a threat. Okay, it can still bring up these feelings of fight, flight, or freeze. So this is the reptilian brain. And this in the middle, right inside, deep down in the interiors, is the mammalian brain. And it also is, it hosts the amygdala, which controls emotions, which regulates emotions. It also has the hippocampus, which has the memory systems, right? And covered around over here is the prefrontal cortex. It's all this area. And this part of the brain developed later. The reptilian brain, the lower part, that developed first. And then there was this, and then this. Now, what is the prefrontal cortex? All are like being able to organize ourselves to be here. That's prefrontal cortex at work, right? The thinking, the organizing, the looking at what is here, that's all the prefrontal cortex. Now, what is happening when there is threat? Then you have to understand threat in many different forms. It's also emotional threat that we perceive. It's not, it may or may not be real, but we perceive a threat. Yeah, simple things like in the COVID situation, we are perceiving threat, we perceived threat like something invisible that is we have to be afraid about, right? And it activates the threat response. So now, if our response to the threat is overwhelming for whatever reason, right? Like I said, it's all dependent then on our past experiences, our conditioning, all of that is coming in the moment. And it gets overwhelmed. What's happening in the brain is that this part, the prefrontal cortex, it goes offline, which means that we are only responding from here and here, like the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain is going on high alert, sending signals right down and saying, either fight, flight, or freeze. It almost feels like a matter of survival, right? And we can't think clearly. Have experienced this? We can't think clearly. We can't see clearly, right? Because this has gone offline. Right? Now, when we practice mindfulness, research has found that the connections between this and the rest of the brain are strengthened. So the ability when we are faced with threat or intense emotions, the ability of the brain to kind of come back online and say, oh, it's okay, that's the situation, we can see what to do, or it's not as threatening as I thought it was. All of that starts to happen, our natural capacity to be able to navigate life's challenges starts to become more available to us. Okay. One of the things, like how do we bring down this emotional response, right? This overwhelm. This can be brought down by simply acknowledging, right now I'm feeling anxious. Right now I'm scared. Or there's a part of me that's feeling scared, not all of me. But to acknowledge that feeling, to say it, to name it, helps to calm that amygdala, brings this connection back. What else helps? Touch, even self-touch, right? So the brain does not respond to touch as my touch, your touch. It's just responding to touch. And what's happening with the touch is that it is bringing down this, this emotional reaction. It's calming it down. It's soothing it. It's like when you were a child and let's say you're crying, and then maybe some adult comes and just holds you, right? Or just embraces you, or just pats you. It's like meeting ourselves with that way, in that way. Okay. So mindfulness has this component also of kindness. So whatever we are experiencing, number one, we are acknowledging. Step one, just acknowledge this is what's going on right now and it's okay. Yeah, without judgment. Step two is we are taking a pause by either our breath or some anchor, okay, and meeting ourselves with some kindness, with some soothing. Step three, okay, is after taking a pause, just ask yourself what is needed for now, what is needed in this moment, right? So there are some questions coming up, and maybe we can take some questions right now. And then maybe I could end with just a summary of the whole thing just by showing it through a PPT. So we kind of just, um, you know, just summarize today and see what we are taking with us. Yeah. Let's have the questions and anything else that you would like to know. So, Jagdeep, you've raised your hand.
हेलो मैम
Yes.
हेलो मैम माय लैंग्वेज हिंदी है
हाँ हाँ, आप हिंदी में बात कर सकते हैं हम लोग.
हाँ जी मैम जैसे आपने बहुत अच्छा बताया कि टचिंग से होता है मैं HI टीचर हूँ आई एम हेयरिंग इम्पेयरमेंट लेकिन जो मैं मल्टी डिसेबिलिटी बच्चे भी टैकल करती हूँ तो मैम जैसे मेरे पास एक बच्चा है करण सारे बच्चे मेरे पास MR के भी हैं तो मैं उनको टचिंग कर करके सिखाती हूँ मैम
Yes.
और स्पिरिचुअलिटी में वो बच्चे भी समझते हैं मैडम जैसे हम कोई भजन भी सुनाए तो वो बच्चा जैसे रोएगा हाइपर होगा तो मैं उसके लिए जैसे भजन वगैरह चला देती हूँ तो उससे माइंड उसका बड़ा रिलैक्स होता है बहुत खुश होता है और स्पीचलेस है वो और विजुअल भी है मैम लेकिन
Yeah.
वो भजन बहुत अच्छी तरीके से सुनता है मैम
Yeah. So yeah, thank you Savita for sharing that. One is touch. और जो टच में है वो इंटेंशन लाना बहुत ज़रूरी है, वो कॉन्शियस टच होना चाहिए. जैसे
हाँ
कि दैट इट इज़ नॉट टचिंग और वो कॉन्टैक्ट not to do anything, not to calm the child. It is just simply that you're coming from a sense of care, right? So, जब वो intention है care का, that also gets translated to the child. And another thing that you brought up, Savita, is that like we may be working with many children where, like we said, use the sense dose. So you use the sense dose that works for the child, right?
यस मैम
Yeah.
यस मैम मैं उसको सेंस दे दे के करती हूँ जैसे उसके
Yes.
गले पे हाथ रख दिया उसका हाथ पकड़ के उसको फोन की टचिंग कराती हूँ कि देखो भजन चल रहा है आप सुन रहे हो तो ये बहुत हैप्पी होता है मैम बहुत खुश
Right.
होता है
Right. And what Savita is also sharing is the climate that is created, right?
यस
For the
मैम
children. Now, part of this climate is also us. Like
यस
our talk today is mainly mindfulness practice for ourselves. Now,
यस
why that is important, especially in the work that we do? Because we are always affecting each other just by, because as human beings,
यस मैम
effect to hota hai.
यस
Our effect is there, their effect is also there on us. So we are always affecting each other.
यस
Now,
मैम
if as any provider, yeah, of any
यस
service, if we are steady in ourselves, if we are emotionally regulated, जैसे हम लोग ने कहा कि, that we feel all right within us.
सही चेक मत कर ठीक है तू
भाई गलती खा गया तू कहीं
Yeah, maybe we can put, yeah. If we feel steady in ourselves, we feel grounded in ourselves, then the other person
Yes, ma'am.
will also, their emotions will also get regulated, because this is by mirror neurons. So that is why it is very important in the climate that we are creating when we are working with others, that we are really taking good care of ourselves and our emotional health. Because when we are there with the other, that is impacting, it is creating big impact for the other.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Yeah, thank you so much, Sabita, for sharing. Any other questions or anything else? Even comments?
Dear participant, you have any question, any query, please ask.
मैम नमस्कार। मेरा बच्चा ADHD है, तो मैं उसको कैसे ये सब सिखा पाऊंगी?
Yeah,
और वो
yeah,
तो बहुत हाइपर एक्टिव है, तो उसको थोड़ा शांत करना भी चाहती हूँ, लेकिन कैसे कर पाऊँ?
yeah. तो मैत्री, ये जो हम लोग ने कहा, आई मीन इवन व्हेन आई वाज टॉकिंग विद सविता, कि सिर्फ ये नहीं देखना है कि बच्चों के साथ क्या करना है, दिस हाउ टू अप्लाई दिस विद द चिल्ड्रन, वी हैव टू सी हाउ वी आर अप्लाइंग दिस टू आवरसेल्व्स, या बिकॉज स्ट्रेस भी आता है ना हमारे लिए. सो देर इज स्ट्रेस, देर इज एंजाइटी, देर इज वरी, देर इज केयर, वो सब मिक्सचर है. सो when we are taking care of ourselves, जैसे हम लोग ने कहा कि when we are steady, then the child also starts to become more steady. तो ज्यादातर उसका environment जो है उसके साथ ज्यादा काम नहीं करना है, लेकिन जो environment है, ओके, हाउ कैन वी क्रिएट वो environment जो बहुत ही steady है. And within ourselves, जो भी adults है around, that the adults are calm, the adults are grounded, the adults have this emotional regulation that we are talking about through, and these practices will then help, and therefore then the child will benefit. So we don't need to make children practice this. Okay, we can create the environment. Like with ADHD also, how do we give stability? The stability can come from this environment of creating a certain rhythm for the day, regular rhythm, regular routine. That by itself creates वो steadiness जो आता है a little bit. Okay, it creates a steadiness also for ourselves. So ज़्यादातर when we are working with children, ज़्यादातर हमारा जो काम है हमारे साथ है. Okay, we don't need to do too much with the children. Yeah. So anything else that we would like to know or ask? Thank you, Maitri, for that, sharing that.
मैम फिर भी उसके साथ मैं कैसे बिहेवियर करूँ कि उसका एनवायरनमेंट उसके लिए कैसे मैं बनाऊँ?
आप अपने अंदर क्या
जब
महसूस करते हैं?
उसको मैं जब भी कुछ करानी चाहती हूँ या जो ठीक है वो मैं बताना चाहती हूँ, वो तो इधर उधर ही करते रहता है. और
तो
उसको
आपके अंदर रिएक्शन क्या आता है जब वो इधर उधर करता है? तो आपके अंदर क्या रिएक्शन आता है? आपके मन में क्या आता है?
मैं तो पहले कोशिश करती हूँ उसको ठान करने के लिए, लेकिन
हाँ.
वो मैं जब फेल्यूर हो जाती हूँ तो मैं बहुत एंग्जायस भी हो जाती हूँ और मैं एंग्री भी हो जाती हूँ. मैं उसको
Yes,
स्लैप भी कर देती हूँ,
yes,
लेकिन
yes,
मैं खुद को शांत नहीं कर पाती हूँ. और मेरे
yes,
को बहुत ज्यादा डर लगता है कि इसको मैं कैसे बनाऊँ और ये कैसे इन फ्यूचर बिहेव करेगा. ये
yes,
सब बहुत ज्यादा ही दिल में आ जाता
yeah,
है, तो
Yeah.
मैं बहुत
Yeah.
ओडिट भी हो जाती हूँ,
Yeah.
तो समझ नहीं पाती
Yeah.
हूँ कि कैसे उसके साथ बिहेव करूँ,
Yes.
कैसे
Yes.
करने से उसको मैं थोड़ा सिखा पाऊंगी।
Yeah. Yeah, thank you मैत्री for sharing that. क्योंकि आपके अंदर जो आपके भावना जो है, आपके अंदर जो विचार आते हैं, उसको वो जो acknowledgement हम लोग बोल रहे हैं, उसको acknowledge करना, फिर देखना कि वो रिएक्शन आ रहा है, बहुत फास्ट रिएक्शन आ रहा है आपके अंदर, है? और ये रिएक्शन क्यों आता है? ये रिएक्शन आता है क्योंकि आपके अंदर जो वरी है, लेकिन उसके नीचे वो केयर भी है, राइट? तो you can keep the care, but you know that maybe right now I need to pause. बच्चे के साथ कुछ करना नहीं है. I need to pause. I need to step back, right? So, so I need to step back. और कैसे step back करना है? Maybe for that time I can just take some time off from the situation. मुझे काम स्टेट में क्या लाता है वो देखना है. what makes me feel calm. माइंडफुलनेस जो प्रैक्टिस है will not come in that time, okay? क्योंकि it requires the practice. It's like when there is a fire, then we won't remember what to do, right? जब हम लोग फायर ड्रिल करते हैं, we practice again and again कि क्या करना है जब फायर आता है. Similarly, जब ये रिएक्शन आता है, जैसे आपने बताया, it's too fast. तो उस टाइम प्रैक्टिस करना will be difficult, but we can bring the acknowledgement there. दूसरे टाइम पे you can practice, right? और रोज प्रैक्टिस करना है where your mind starts to feel a little calmer. जैसे कि हम लोग ने इस सेशन में किया. और बहुत ज़्यादा गाइडेड प्रैक्टिसेस है हिंदी में ये, और मेरा भी ये विपश्यना प्रैक्टिस है एसन गोइंका का, और बहुत सारी प्रैक्टिसेस है जो हिंदी में है. तो you can listen to those practices and every day just 10 minutes to give some time for just yourself. Okay? And don't think of what to do with my child right now. Right now, I have to take care of ये जो reaction आता है, I have to take care of this reaction. फिर ये जो when we become calm, no, बहुत सारे solutions हमारे सामने आते हैं. लेकिन उस time when we are not calm, वो solutions भी हमें दिखाई नहीं देता है. So it's really important to come back to a sense of calm. Thank you, Maitri. I think that is very useful to so many of us over here.
Ma'am, one new question here in the chat box. How to how to reduce stress and negativity thought? It's a one question. How to reduce stress and negativity thought?
In oneself?
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, when we are having a thought, no, which we are saying is negative, वो judgment आता है, right? We must not think like this. We must not do like this. वो judgment आता है. And then we try to fix it, right? जैसे कि if let's say we have this thought, right, that हमें if I tell you that right now, don't think about ice cream. Now you just do that. Don't think about ice cream. What is happening in the mind? You are thinking about ice cream, right? So if we tell ourselves, don't think like that, we are thinking that. We are bringing more attention to that thought. और वो fight होता है. That thought तो आ रहा है, but we are saying we must not think like that. और ये जो fight जो आता है, that creates the problem. Thought problem नहीं करता है. Thought is just a thought. It will just move through the mind. तो प्रॉब्लम क्या है? द प्रॉब्लम इज अ फाइट विद द थॉट दैट आई शुड नॉट थिंक लाइक दिस, आई शुड नॉट हैव दिस थॉट. ओके, और ये जो इनर फाइट है वो और मजबूत करता है ये दिस आइडेंटिफिकेशन विद द थॉट. सो द फर्स्ट थिंग इज आई जस्ट से ओके ठीक है, दिस थॉट हैज कम. नाउ आई डोंट फॉलो द थॉट. उस थॉट के साथ जाना नहीं है, उस थॉट को सप्रेस भी नहीं करना है. ओके, थॉट को आने दो, जाने दो. नाउ दिस इज वेरी हार्ड. इतना आसान नहीं है. देयरफॉर वी आर सेइंग एंकर के ऊपर ध्यान दो फिर, क्योंकि ये थॉट जो है बहुत स्ट्रांग है, उसका पुल बहुत स्ट्रांग है. तो अटेंशन जो है एंकर के साथ जोड़ दो. कौन सा एंकर्स? ब्रेथ, साउंड, राइट, बॉडी. ये जो एंकर्स है जो प्रेजेंट में है, राइट. सो वी ब्रिंग आवर अटेंशन लाइक दिस. अगेन आवर अटेंशन वो थॉट के साथ जा रहा है, अगेन वी ब्रिंग इट बैक. लेकिन थॉट को सप्रेस नहीं करना है और फॉलो भी नहीं करना है. या सिर्फ ये हमारे अंदर जो है वो स्थिरता लाना वो जरूरी है, नॉट मूविंग. तो जो भी हो रहा है हमारा जीवन में, whatever ups and downs, we don't move with that, we remain steady. लेकिन वो तो होगा, the up and down will happen, but we are not going with the up and down. शायद वो थॉट्स है, शायद वो इमोशंस है, शायद वो लाइफ सिचुएशंस है. We are not going up and down with it. Okay.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, it's a really wonderful. You have been, dear participant, you have any query? Otherwise, we are going to bind up the session. You have any query? Please ask. Otherwise, we are going to bind up the session. आपको कोई भी क्वेश्चन हो, आप मतलब इसमें लाइक माइंडफुलनेस से रिलेटेड, तो आप पूछ सकते हैं. अदरवाइज हम अपना सेशन बाइंड अप करेंगे. I think, ma'am, there have no any question. We are going to bind up the session, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much for this time and to be with you all, and really truly wish you all the very best. We can just end with maybe a minute's practice if that's okay, right? वो metta practice जो है, loving kindness practice है, and we'll bring it. We'll just a minute of silence, and bring your attention to your breath. Right? Let your hand rest on your heart. And wish well for yourself. May I be peaceful. May I have ease of well-being. And then also bring to your mind maybe the children you are with, your own children or the children you work with, wishing well for them as well. May they be peaceful, may they have ease or well-being. And we'll wish it for everyone in this group today, whoever has joined. You just extend your goodwill, just extend your good wishes. That may everyone have a sense of peace and inner joy. And we can always end the day with this kind of very simple practice of just wishing well for ourselves and others. So thank you very much yeah, for this opportunity, and yeah, hope it throws some light on mindfulness.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us behalf of Diksha Institute and Rehabilitation. Once again, thank you once more, person. I don't take a here the name of the my backbone support. She's all time support me all the for the all the situation, all the condition. Thank you once again, ma'am, for the joining here, the for the wonderful the lecture for the mindfulness. Once again, ma'am, really it's a wonderful session. हम दोबारा से ट्राई करेंगे कभी एक बार और सेशन कराने के लिए मैम इट्स रियली वंडरफुल थैंक यू ऑल द पार्टिसिपेंट फॉर ज्वाइनिंग अस थैंक यू सो मच मैम थैंक यू पार्टिसिपेंट प्लीज फिल द फीडबैक फॉर्म जो लोग फीडबैक फॉर्म फिल नहीं करेंगे उनको सर्टिफिकेट नहीं मिलेगा जितने लोग फीडबैक फॉर्म फिलअप करेंगे उसी को सर्टिफिकेट मिलेगा राइट इसलिए सर्टिफिकेट के लिए प्लीज फिल द फीडबैक फॉर्म चैट बॉक्स में दे दिया गया है